Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
Yo, it's your boy, the odd guy himself, Malik King Scott.
Hi, I'm Charlie Edwards.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 93 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. Ayaz is not with me this week. I'd like to be able to say that he's in New York at the Broner and Mikey Garcia stuff, but he's not. He's just in New York partying, holidaying and all the rest. So he's not with me, but we're joined by the very capable replacement, Mr. Diego Najera. You've been on before, of course, Diego, just the once. It was a really good show. It was a while back, but I'm glad to have you back on, and thanks for coming on, of course.
Thank you. Really happy to be here and sharing with you the boxing news this week.
Of course, man. Of course, there's a lot to talk about. Right, so I'm going to start with the review part of the show. Obviously, the review part of the show being the action last week, talking about last week's fights. There wasn't too much that happened last week. I'm going to start over in Germany. One fight to mention over there. Heavyweight Erkan Tepe, 16-2, moved to 17-2 with a TKO in round 1 against a man called Zoltan Cesala, who was 11-11, now 11-12. I think he'd been in there with, and if I'm not mistaken, even stopped by the likes of Nick Webb and stuff like that. So he wasn't really, he didn't really come to offer too much, so a decent win there for Tepe. I'm not too sure where he's going though. Moving over now to Puerto Rico, Amanda Serrano, 32-1. She moved to 33-1. She's of course got one draw as well. A TKO in round 3 against Adina Kiss. Her record 13-4, now 13-5, and Serrano defended successfully her WBO World Female Super Bantamweight title. So very well done to her. I know that she returned home to Puerto Rico, and I think that her and her sister have got like a massive mural on the wall, like some graffiti artist has drawn like a huge picture of both the sisters, so that was really quite cool. All the very best to her. Moving over now to Mexico, one fight to mention on a card over there. Former world champion Johnny Gonzalez, 63-10, took on Jesse Chris Rosales, 21-0 with one draw. A bit of a prospect, but the crafty and tricky veteran Johnny Gonzalez pulled it out of the bag with a KO in round 2, a really big statement there. He moves to 64 wins with 10 losses, obviously, and also defended successfully his WBC Latino Super Featherweight title. Moving over now to Russia, Fedor Chudanov, his first fight back after being stopped by George Groves. He moved to 15 wins. He's of course got 2 losses. He made light work of Jonathan Barbadillo, 17-3 with one draw. So that was a second round TKO there for Chudanov, now 15-2. That's it from the Red Square in Moscow, Russia. Moving over now to the Brentwood Centre in Essex, a fight over in the UK, of course. Couple fights to mention on this bill, really. Johnny Coyle moved to 17-0. He's got one draw as well. It was a points win over 8 rounds against Innocent and Yanwu. I did say he's a bit of a tough guy, so good win there for Johnny Coyle. Tyler Goodjohn got back in the ring as well. He moved to 13 wins. He's got 5 losses. He defeated the previously undefeated Adam Barker, who was 4-0, now 4-1. Goodjohn picked up a cut above the left eye in that fight, though. He tends to cut up quite a bit, actually. Also on the bill, John Wayne Hibbert, 17-5, moved to 18-5, a points win over 6 rounds against Arvidas Trisno, 25-66 now, bit of a journeyman. Also on that bill, Sonny Edwards moved to 5-0 with a points win over 4 rounds against Jose Aguilar. And Dave Allen, the heavyweight, he moved to 12 wins. It was a TKO in round 3 against Tom Dallas. Tom Dallas 17-9, now 17-10. And he announced his retirement after the fight. It was a big right hook that put him out. Dave Allen looked a little bit powerful there, to be honest. I'm very happy for him. He's a good friend of the show, Dave Allen, now 12-3 with one draw. And the final fight to mention on this bill, Lerone Richards, he moved to 8-0 with a win over Lewis Van Poach. 5-49 his record, a clear journeyman, but it's very rare that he gets stopped, and Lerone Richards doesn't really appear to be the biggest puncher, so a good win for him there. TKO in round 3. It was scheduled for 4. but he didn't need that extra round. And the final fight to mention of last week, really, we've kind of flown through this. There wasn't too much on, as I said. A fight that happened on Monday of this week, actually, a couple of days ago, at the Centrale Live del Voro in Roma, Lazio, Italy. One fight to mention over there. Giovanni De Carolis, former foe of Tyrone Zoiga, 24-7 with one draw, going in against a man called Viktor Polyakov, 12-1 with one draw. It was for the vacant WBA International Super Middleweight title, and actually Giovanni De Carolis was upset here. He lost a unanimous decision over 12 rounds to the man that was 12-1, Viktor Polyakov. Don't know too much about him at all, but wow, that's a huge upset, especially in De Carolis' backyard as well. So yeah, big stuff there. And we've kind of flown through it, as I said. That's really it for the review, and it's now time to welcome the first guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the undefeated former English, British and European champion, Mr. Callum Smith. Callum, welcome to the show, mate. It's been quite a while since we last spoke, but welcome back.
Thank you, mate.
It's my pleasure. So, Callum, first things first, you were going to be fighting Anthony Dirrell for the vacant WBC world title, but obviously instead you've decided to sign up to the World Boxing Super Series tournament. How come the Dirrell fight didn't come to fruition, and what attracted you to the World Boxing Super Series?
The Dirrell fight was just a lot of messing around from the World get-go, to be honest with you. I become mandatory and, all the Jack fighting the Gale and then Jack moving up. It just took a while, but I kind of knew that was going to happen. I thought soon as the announcement me beat Dirrell had to happen, it'd be pretty straightforward, and it was kind of the opposite. It was just the minute we lost Eddie and lost the pace, we sort of lost control, and it was sort of in their hands, and it was just like anything. We'll put the fight on. You were swapping dates. I got told early May, then I got told the 27th of May. Maybe middle of June. I was hearing rumours 17th of June in New York and stuff, and then I got sent a contract in September the 9th in LA. I got told we both had till midnight to sign it, or we lost the fight, so I signed it, and I thought that was that. I had a bit of a smile on my face after training again, and was enjoying it, and then we come on and we were wanting to swap the date and move it to Flint, and it just felt like the fight was just going further and further away from me, and at the same time, while all this was happening, the tournament was obviously getting offered to me, but I was sort of putting it on the back burner, wanting to fight for the WBC, as that was the original plan, and it's got to a point where enough was enough, and I decided the tournament was a better opportunity, and it gave me a guaranteed fight date and a possible guaranteed fight date, and I feel that's what I need to be doing. I've spent too long waiting around and not fighting. I need to just get back in the ring and get back to doing what I came out to do, and that was fight.
Yeah, that's right, because obviously, yourself, you've waited a long time to get a shot at a world title. Your fans have obviously waited that time as well. And then when we heard that you'd be fighting for the WBC Diamond Belt, which is a lovely looking belt, but obviously it doesn't come with that world title status. That's obviously the route you're going to be going down in this tournament. But I suppose ultimately, if you do go on to win the entire tournament, you would end up being a world champion. You'd end up with a WBA belt, which you're the favourite to win this tournament as well, Callum.
Yeah, that's exactly. I think it's it's a gamble, but it's a gamble I'm confident will pay off. I believe if I didn't believe I was good enough to win the whole tournament, then I wouldn't have done it. I'd have just sat around and waited and took the WBC shot. I chose the tournament because I'm confident I can win the whole thing, and by doing so, I become a world champion anyway. It might take a couple of fights longer, but it's still the ultimate goal is to become a world champion, and this tournament still gives me a way of doing that.
And obviously you chose to fight Eric Skoglund. That fight will happen on September the 16th at the Echo Arena. You'll be coming off of your longest layoff so far in your career also. Do you know much about your opponent, Callum? In many ways, he's a bit of a dark horse in this tournament. He could be the goods.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people backing him, saying he could be the dark horse and stuff. And to be fair, before the tournament was mentioned and he was in it, I hadn't seen a lot of him, to be totally honest with you. But obviously, when I knew I was going to be second seed, we've done a bit of homework on them all, and he's a good fighter. He does the basics well. He's kind of a good all-round, and he's obviously big for the weight. He's coming down from 175 light heavyweight, but I just believe everything he does, I do. that bit better, and I just think stylistically it's a good one for me. He's tall, he'll make me stand up and box and use my skills more, and I just think it'll be more of a boxing match which will show my skills more. So it was one of them. I haven't picked him saying he's no good and he's an easy fight. I don't think there was an easy one to pick out the 4 non-seeds. I just believe he was the best one for me stylistically.
And you fought many good fighters in your career as a pro. Do you consider this fight as your toughest fight yet?
Yeah, I think on paper and as records suggest, he's a light heavyweight coming down. He's 26-0. He's got a few good wins on his record, and he had a lot of good rankings with all the governing bodies. So up to now, he is my toughest test to date. After the 16th of September, will he be? We don't know. As I said, Muhammad, he was spoke of as my toughest test, and it was a 1-round fight, and the same with Field, and that was a 1-round fight, so you can never really tell. But leading up to it, yeah, I do think he's the best I've boxed, and I think that'll bring out the best in me. I'm training well, and I've got that bit between the teeth again. It's a guaranteed fight date, and it's a tough fight. It's not an easy game, even where I know it's 50% turn up, I'll still win. I know I've got to be at my best to beat Eric Skovland, and I believe I will be.
And another fixture in your tournament in the same round, obviously. George Groves has chosen to fight Jamie Cox. What's your thoughts on that fight, Callum?
It's a good fight. I think Groves is obviously very good. He's a world champion. He's got the other 7 in the tournament once, and I believe he's number 1 seed for a reason. But Cox has got a very good reputation in England, but he's never quite done it in the actual ring when it matters. A lot of them are sparring stories, and I believe he's given a lot of good fighters a tough time in sparring, but he's been calling out for the big fights for a long time now, and now he's got one, so he's got to deliver. I think it's a good fight, but I just think when we were all in Monte Carlo and sizing everyone up, I think the size might be a bit too much between him and Groves. Groves is a big super middleweight, and I don't think Jamie is. I think he's more on the small side, although he's maybe heavy-handed. I think naturally the size is with Groves, and it's a good fight, but I think Groves has got to start the favourite, but you never know. I think Groves has shown vulnerabilities in the past, and if there are any still there, then Cox could be the man to exploit them. But it's a good fight. I think all 4 quarterfinals are good fights, and I think that's why a lot of people are excited about the tournament.
Yeah, it is a very exciting looking tournament. There's 4 Brits in the tournament. It's an 8-man tournament, obviously. So I fancy our chances of a Brit ending up winning the whole thing, despite George Groves deciding to challenge another Brit straight away. But it is what it is with that. I want to ask you about your brothers, Callum. Unfortunately, we all saw Paul fall short once again for a world title. Eddie Hearn has made it pretty clear that could be Paul's last shot at a world title. I just really wanted to ask how Paul's getting on. I know that he took the loss pretty bad at first, as you'd expect, of course.
Yeah, he took it. No one likes losing, no matter what stage of your career. No one likes to come off on the wrong end of a decision, but it is what it is. I think I think he beat him on the night. I think he lost to a younger, fresher, sharper fighter, and it was what it was. I think it just wasn't quite there anymore with Paul. He had a long career. I think he turned pro when he was 19, 20. I think he's 34 now, so it's a long time, and I think age catches up with everyone, and I think that may be in the case of Paul. We'll never know. Brilliant just family life at the minute. He's got a good family, and he's having a nice rest, and it's up to him what he decides to do, but it's one of them. He's got other things outside boxing, what he enjoys doing, and we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, it's a tough loss for him, but he's been there before, and he knows how to deal with it.
Yeah, all the very best to him. And what's next for Stephen, Callum?
He's just waiting to hear now. I think he's trying to get a shot at Corrales, the WBA super champion. He boxed, I think, last weekend. He won. I think he got put over, but he won on a technical decision or something. But I think Stephen's number 1 or mandatory for the European title as well, which would be a good belt to win. So I think he's just waiting to see what route they're going to go. But I think he'd be looking to get out the end of September or early October. He got married last week, so he's back in the gym now, and he'll be looking towards getting another big fight, hopefully, fingers crossed.
Yeah, wicked. And your brother Liam is giving Liam Williams a rematch. That fight's happening in October. It's just been announced. The first fight was a fantastic spectacle, and no matter who you had winning at the time of the stoppage, I think most people agree it wasn't the ending that we all wanted. Both men have got the chance to settle the score once and for all. How do you see that one playing out, Callum?
Yeah, I think that was a good fight last time, and think a lot of people wanted to see it again, and I think Liam wanted to just put the record straight a bit. I think he underperformed, and it wasn't the best of him, and we got the win in the end. But I think he believes he can win a lot easier this time. That I'm sure Williams believes he can go and win this fight. But I just think it was a good Liam Williams last time against a poor Liam Smith, and I think the fight was still competitive and pretty close at the time to stoppage. But no, it's an opinion. I'm obviously going to be biased, and I think that's what a lot of people are waiting to see, the rematch. I would have panned out the first time, and it will change and it will improve this time. But Liam's very confident, and I was back in the gym, he started his camp, and I think he's got a point to prove, and I think that'll bring out the best in him.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last couple questions now, Callum. Remarkably, as we alluded to earlier, Anthony Dirrell, he's ended up scheduling a fight before your upcoming fight. He's going to be fighting the week before for the vacant WBC world title against David Benavidez. A man that's, he's up and coming, but he's looking really good, Benavidez, a real big puncher as well. A fight I really like the sound of. Who do you see winning that one, Callum?
It's good, obviously. Dirrell's a good fighter. He's been there and done it. He's experienced, and he knows his way about the ring. But I like the look of Benavidez. He's young, he's hungry. He fights at a good work rate, and I think he's only 20, so he's only getting better. And I just think his youth and his work rate will be a little bit too much for Dirrell. I could be wrong, but from seeing the last few recent fights, I just think Benavidez might just be that little bit too hungry and wanted a little bit more.
Yeah. No, I think the youth could prevail on that one as well. And finally, a fight that I've got to ask everybody about that we speak to: Canelo versus Triple G. How do you see that mouth-watering fight unfold in September?
I don't know. I've changed my mind a few times over the last few weeks. I think Canelo's very good. I think he'll look good early on in the fight. His combinations, I don't think there's many better than him in the sport at the minute. And I think the success Kell Brook had early on, I think Canelo will have probably plus more. I think he's a bigger man, and he's got very, very good shot selection. But I think they get a good Triple G on the night as well. I think he's underperformed in his last couple, maybe through lack of motivation. But I think you'll see the best of him, and I just think his power's a little bit too much for Canelo at middleweight. But I think Canelo could be winning, but I think Golovkin knocks him out.
Yeah, it's a brilliant fight. Everybody I ask, no one's really convinced that they're right with what they're saying.
I would like to put my money on it, to be fair. It's a very good fight, and it's a shame it's not getting the publicity it should because of the Mayweather and McGregor fight, because it's a much, much better fight. I don't think there's a better fight in the sport at the minute.
Yeah, everybody said exactly the same thing there. Just before I let you go, Callum, anything to add at all? Anything you want to say to anyone that could be listening at all?
No, just look forward to September the 16th and look forward to getting back in the ring, and hopefully I can get back and put in a good performance and hopefully go on and win the tournament next year. There's some very good fights for me to be made with maybe Eubank, Groves or Cox and stuff, and I'm looking forward to basically getting people talking about me again.
Absolutely. Okay, listen, Callum, it's always a pleasure speaking with you, mate. Thanks for giving us some of your time, and we'll no doubt catch up again after your fight.
No worries, mate. Thanks for having me on. Thank you.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. Usually we go over to Ayaz with the latest news, but as I've said, he's not with me. He's not with us. It's me and Diego this week. There's no news. So I'm very sorry about that. But in place of that, we're going to return with the Funny Name Fighter segment, a piece that we used to do quite regularly before. We haven't done it for a while. It's where basically I read out funny name fighters that are fighting this week. So we've actually, there's a bit of a field day going on. There's some real funny name fighters this week. So we're going to start over in the Philippines. There's a fight happening over there. A man called Marlon Arcilla. There's nothing wrong with his name, but he takes on a man called Robin Ding Kong. I just like that name, to be honest. I thought that was quite good for me. His record 5-3 with 3 draws. All the very best to Robin Ding Kong. Moving over now to Japan. There was a fight on this bill, and I think we've probably mentioned it before as a funny name fighter. There's literally a guy called Cocky Tyson. His record 12-2 with 2 draws. He's actually fighting for a belt here against a man called Brandon Lockhart Shane. So all the very best to Cocky Tyson. If you thought Tyson was cocky and you've got it a bit twisted up, this is the man to support over in Japan. Also on that bill, by the way, there's another fighter, if I'm not mistaken, by the name of Money Powell. not really the funniest name, but I quite like that. Money Pal, he's 2-0. He takes on a guy who's 0-3, so all the very best to Money Pal. Moving over now to China. There's always something on these China bills. I do like to see some of the names on there. There's actually a guy over in China by the name of Wiley. Literally, Diego. The guy's name is Wiley, like the rapper,
Yeah.
So yeah, he deserves a mention. Wiley's actually making his debut here against someone called He Lu, who's 1-2. So all the very best to Wiley. I'm a big fan of his. I've had a few tunes of his on my iTunes for quite a while, and there's also someone on this bill as well who's making their debut against a man called Yong Peng, who's 0-3. A man called Bangin Zhang, and I don't know what that means. That's probably some sort of slang for something. But yeah, Bangin Zhang's making his debut. He gets a mention as well. Another one in Japan, actually. Another man making his debut. A man by the name of Hummer Gorilla. And I think he's a contender to win this. I think that I really like that name, Hummer Gorilla. I think that's a perfect name. He takes on a man who's 4-3 called Regent Kuzumoto. All the very best to Hummer Gorilla in the incubation center in Japan. And finally, there's a couple of others. In the USA this week, there's actually a guy, and I'm not even kidding, his name is Gervonta Davis. It's not Gervonta spelt the same, it's actually Gevonte. So Gervonta Davis. He's clearly not as good as Gervonta Davis because his record is 4-7 with 1 draw. He takes on a man called Rashad Jones. So a good mention there to Gervonta, or however you want to say that. He's an imposter, that's all I'm going to call him. Also, moving over to China as well, there's another fight over there. A man called Richard Garcia, 26-24 with 1 draw, takes on a man with no wins. And it always seems to be the case. Whenever we see a funny name fighter, he always seems to have no wins, or he's just making his debut. This man's record is 0-4, but he gets a good mention. His name is Yang Wang, and I like that as well. And finally, a man that I'm sure we've mentioned before, this one happening over in the USA at the Boxing and Balls Outdoor Grounds. I like the name of the venue, and I like the name of the fighter, a man called Melvin Weaselboy. And I know it sounds like I'm making it up, but I'm truly not. He's 1-0. He takes on a man called Billy Martin, who's 0-1. All the very best to Melvin Weaselboy. So Diego, usually what we do is we kind of say which name we like best. So I'm going to come over to you. So there's the choices here. You've got Melvin Weaselboy, you've got Yang Wang, you've got Gervonta Davis, you've got Hummer Gorilla, you've got Bangin Zhang, you've got Wiley, you've got Money Pal, you've got Cocky Tyson, and you've got one other that Robin Ding Kong, who wasn't the best name. What one stands out to you? What one is the best name?
Yeah, I've definitely got to go with Cocky Tyson.
You like Cocky Tyson? I don't know. I'm split. I like Hummer Gorilla, but then I also like Wiley. I think that's wicked as well. All right, we'll spread it across the 3 guys, so they all get mentions here. They probably don't even know the podcast exists, but they're being mentioned. They're heroes this week. Right, that's it for the funny name fighter segment. We'll leave that there. It's been, it replaced the news. It was a little bit of comedy thrown in there. Moving over to the serious stuff now, part 2, the previewing. There is one fight that's happening later tonight, so unfortunately we won't be able to talk about the result of it until next week, but it's a decent fight. It's happening over in the Hotel Jaragua in Dominican Republic, actually. One fight to mention over there, Carlos Adames. He's 11-0. He was a decent amateur. He's fighting for the WBA Federatin welterweight title. I think it might be his own title. It's a funny one. It's an 11-round contest at welterweight against former world champion Carlos Molina from Mexico, 28-6 with 2 draws. We've actually had Carlos on the show, so I'm going to wish Carlos Molina all the very best over in the Dominican Republic there. So yeah, that's a fight happening midweek. We're going to talk about the result on next week's show. Moving over to this Friday now, the Shanghai Oriental Sports Center in China. One fight to mention on this bill, Zhu Shiming, 9-1, defends his WBO World Flyweight title against Sho Kimura, 14-1 with 2 draws. I'm not, I've said it many times, I'm not a big a big expert in flyweight boxing. I know that, obviously, I know who Zhu Shiming is. I don't know anything about his opponent, so it'd be unfair to sit here and start giving my take on it. but that's one to mention. Moving over now, one fight to mention just over in Nicaragua. This guy gets an honourable mention. Christopher Rosales, 23-3. If I'm not mistaken, he's only 22 or 23 years old. He actually dropped Andrew Selby in his last fight, and he dropped Andrew Selby in the first round. He went on to lose, obviously, but he's in a 10-round contest at flyweight. He defends his WBC Latino flyweight title against Jose Martin Tecup. Oh, I can't even say that name, but all the very best to both men in there. Moving over now to the United Kingdom, one fight to mention at the Bowlers Exhibition Centre in Manchester, Lancashire. Top of the bill, Zelfa Flash Barrett, 17-0, takes on Jordan Ellison, 7-10. It's a 10-rounder at super featherweight. Zelfa Barrett's a man that I'm quite high on. I think he's quite good, but he needs to step up, man. This is his 18th fight now, and he really needs to step up. So all the very best to him, but I want to see him in some big fights down the line very soon. Also on the bill, Marcus Morrison, 14-2, prospect out of the Gallagher's boxing gym. He was 14-0. He's actually lost 2 fights on the bounce, but he's in a 6-rounder here at middleweight. I'll give him a bit of credit, really, because he jumped straight back in after losing 2 on the trot. He doesn't want to take some time off. He doesn't want to really go back to the drawing board. He wants to jump straight back out there. That shows a lot of character and heart. So all the very best to Marcus Morrison and Joe Gallagher. Moving over now to the SSE Arena in Belfast, Northern Ireland. I'm going to come over to you now, Diego. Top of the bill over here. Carl Frampton, 23-1. No title on the line. It's the return of the Jackal. He takes on Andres Gutierrez, 35-1 with 1 draw. Obviously, Gutierrez is a man that's, he's vastly experienced, but he hasn't really fought on that kind of world level. So do you know too much about this guy? I know he's obviously South American like yourself. Do you know too much about him or anything at all?
To be honest, this is the first time I've actually come across his name.
Yeah.
So I'm not too familiar with him, to be honest.
All right, no worries. But, obviously it's going to be exciting to see Carl Frampton back in the ring. We want to see him back in the mix with the likes of Leo Santa Cruz and all that. So, overall, we're excited to see Carl Frampton back in the ring anyway. Yeah,
definitely. It's going to be interesting to see. I'm sure he's made adjustments. It probably won't show in this fight because the styles are going to be quite different and the quality of opponent itself. But, yeah, I think Carl Frampton still has a lot to offer to the division. He's an amazing fighter, and it was unfortunate the way Santa Cruz handled this whole, because we were expecting him to give Carl Frampton back the rematch just as Frampton did, and but I mean, I guess Frampton just has to work his way up again, and so because he's already got the name, he's got the reputation, so it's just working himself back into that position, and I'm sure he'll do great things just as he's already done.
Yeah, absolutely. We certainly hope so. Also on that bill, Conrad Cummins, 11-1 with 1 draw, takes on Robert Swisbinski, 18-6 with 2 draws. I'm sure I've seen his name before. I can't remember where, but yeah, Conrad Cummins. He puts his WBO European middleweight title on the line. It's a 12-rounder at middleweight, that one, just to mention. Also on the bill, it's not really the most attractive looking bill, but I will mention Chantel Cameron, 2-0. Her opponent's yet to be announced, but she's in 6 2-minute rounds at lightweight. We wish her all the very best. A very exciting female in the sport. Moving over now really to the big one this weekend. This is a brilliant, brilliant fight. This is a fight I've been looking forward to for so long. It's a real true boxing fans fight, this one. Over in the Barclays Center, Brooklyn, New York, USA. No other place for it to be, really. Mikey Garcia, 36-0, takes on the problem Adrian Broner, 33-2. What a fight. I'm not even going to say any more. I'm going to go straight over to you, Diego. What a fight.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is, I think, maybe the whole Mayweather-McGregor sort of press conference sort of took away from this fight in the past few weeks, like all the publicity. But this is an amazing fight, and this is a fight that, if you're a boxing fan, you should definitely be watching. I mean, what you've got here is 2 amazingly talented fighters, and I think Broner. I mean, we've heard it before from him. When he says he's about boxing now, that the sort of party life is behind him. But I think if at any point there was any fight where it was going to cost him, it's this fight. And so if he is about boxing, it will definitely show in this fight if that's what he's been up to. And if he hasn't, then it's going to really cost him in this fight, because Mikey Garcia is someone who's dedicated. He's been dedicated to the sport, and it's shown. That's why his record is as good as it is. But what we should be mentioning as well is the fact that Broner, on paper, seems to be more accomplished than Mikey Garcia. And Mikey Garcia, even though he's been around for a long time, he still has some catching up to do in the sense that this is his first time at 140. And I think it's definitely an amazing fight. It's a great fight. And I think that truly the better fight is going to win. I think that Broner's got the physical aspect to him. He seems a bit more stockier than Mikey Garcia. Personally, for me, I think he's faster. I think he's more athletic. But Mikey Garcia's just got a way that he's sort of graceful in the way he fights. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens this weekend.
It's just, as you said, it's an absolutely brilliant fight. It really is. I'm so happy that Sky Sports have picked it up. I'm going to be tuning in on Saturday. I think the telecast starts about 1 a.m. So I'm going to give my thoughts on this. Mikey Garcia, 36-0. This is clearly his biggest fight. I think that's fair to say. It's the biggest fight of his career. And you'd have to say that Adrian Broner, this is probably one of his biggest fights as well. I think that Adrian, aside from that Maidana fight, which was probably the biggest fight, I suppose you could say, but that comes to my head anyway. You know, this is really one of his biggest fights, if not the biggest fight of his career also. So Adrian needs to be really dedicated. The thing with him is the dedication has been the problem. There's been a couple pictures of him, you know, in the last couple of days where some people are not really liking the way he looks. They're saying he looks a bit dried out. We'll have to wait and see. I think the weigh-in's going to be really important. As I've said before on a few different shows that we've done, Adrian Broner, I don't think he's made the 140 limit for something like 2 years. I mean, the closest he came to it was when he took on Ashley Theophane, and he missed it by like half a pound. So I think the weight's a big thing. You know, an interesting question is to ask, who does this weight suit better? Because we all know that Broner up at 147, that's not where he should be. Mikey Garcia, really and truly, you know, he's a lightweight, even a bit less than that. So it's a really interesting fight for the weight point of view. I think that makes it a really good fight. But it's the best weight for them both to fight at, stylistically, and, you know, for the whole matchup to be 50-50. But for me, I think Mikey Garcia's probably got the tools, the smarts, and the toughness to come through this. I think he can also bang. I think he's the harder hitter of the pair. But yeah, if Broner's switched on, he's a problem for anybody. He truly is. But nice. It's just a brilliant fight. I really got to stress to anybody listening to me right now, please watch this fight. It's going to be unbelievable. This is a true boxing fans fight. Diego, I know that you broke it down a little bit, and I want to come to you just for one last thing. You managed to escape without saying your prediction. Who do you reckon wins this fight and how?
I've got a feeling Broner wins this fight.
Really?
And yeah, I mean, I've thought about this fight quite some time now, and I support both of them. I mean, both of them are this is sort of like a nightmare fight for me in some sense, because I support both of them. But I really do think that I think they're equal. I think Mikey Garcia probably is more talented, but I just think that Broner seems to be more explosive, and I think that's where we might see maybe sort of you remember what happened sort of when he caught Emmanuel Taylor with that last shot at the end, and obviously Emmanuel Taylor is nowhere near as talented as Mikey Garcia, but I think it's just those moments of explosiveness where something may come out, and I can see Mikey Garcia maybe getting stopped. I'm not too sure when, but if that doesn't happen, then I would have Mikey Garcia winning on points. But I think that if Broner is to win, and I have that feeling that he'll win, it would be like that. He'll come out from an explosive combination, and maybe he'll follow through with that and stop Mikey Garcia.
Wow, that's a big call. If you put your money where your mouth is, you get some good odds on that. I just want to touch on the fact that I asked a poll on BoxHard Podcast Twitter of, you know, who people think is going to win and how, and the results of the poll, I mean, it's still going on. I think it still goes on till about fight night or something, but the results so far are 45%, which is the highest percentage, are picking Garcia to win on points. 38% are picking Garcia to win by knockout. Only 10% say Broner on points. And your prediction, Broner by KO, only 7%. So, you know, not many people sharing that opinion, but it's certainly a very interesting one, Diego. For me, I'm going to go with Mikey Garcia on points. I don't feel that either man's going to be stopped inside the distance. Both men are very tough. Both men haven't been stopped. I think that Broner's very tough. Some people kind of knock him, for being put down twice by Maidana, I think, in that fight. And, he come through the storm really with Sean Porter despite losing. So, yeah, I think both men are very tough. I can only see it going to points. But for me, I think Mikey Garcia is going to pull it out. But no, it just goes to show, again, for people listening, myself and Diego here both completely seeing it from different aspects, both seeing different, ways that the other man can win the fight. So it just goes to show there, the proof's in the pudding. It's going to be a really, really good fight. Very highly anticipated. Moving down the undercard, Jermall Charlo, 25-0. It's his first fight at middleweight since winning his title at 154. He moves up to 160 to take on Jorge Sebastian Hyland, a man who I remember knocked out his name's completely escaped me. Knocked out Ireland's Matthew Macklin. I remember when that happened. So Jorge Sebastian Hyland, 29-4 with 2 draws. Bit of a tough guy, but I think his better days are a little bit behind him. Jermall Charlo, obviously very fresh, very, very good, very athletic. He's got a lot of power, and it's going to be very interesting to see what he looks like at 160. Do you want to add anything to that, Diego, at all, or should we leave that one there?
I'm particularly interested actually in Jermall Charlo and what he's got to bring to the middleweight division. I was really, 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 I wouldn't say surprised. I think more sort of, he caught my attention with the way he sort of beat Julian Williams, because there was a lot of people who were talking about how he was ducking Julian Williams, how Julian Williams was going to be sort of this next great fighter. And I think he could probably still be it. But just the way he finished off, and with his brother as well, they've sort of developed a style where they seem very powerful. And I think only at 160 this can make him even better. Maybe a showdown with Golovkin is out of the. There's been questions of Golovkin apparently thinking of retirement. But there's other great fighters at 160 as well. It'll be really interesting to see what Jermall Charlo can do, because he's a talented fighter. He's tall, he's strong, and his style I think is really well suited for the division. And the same I would share with you. I think that he would probably get the win over Hyland, and I think this is more just like to feed, to sort of see where he's at. But I think he'll continue with his winning ways and he'll go far in his 160 career.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think that, as you said there, Jermall Charlo, a really good fighter. I think he is probably just feeling out the weight. And it's probably the perfect opponent to feel out the weight with, to be honest. But no, tremendous fighter. I actually remember that Julian Williams, the whole thing with him. I remember Julian Williams won a fight, and instead of calling Jermall Charlo a chicken, he called him a turkey. And I think he did it by accident, but he stuck with it the whole way through. So we always called him a turkey. But all the very best to Jermall Charlo. Moving down the undercard, another really good fight that caught my eye. Rashay Warren, 14-2. I think he's promotionally hooked up with Adrian Broner, if I'm not mistaken. He's taking on McJoe Arroyo, 17-1. Obviously, Rashay Warren, former belt holder. McJoe Arroyo, if I'm not mistaken, I think he either held a title or held an interim title. That's at super flyweight, so that should be a good bang up there. And also another fight on the bill. A guest from last week's show, Billy Dibb, friend of the show, former IBF featherweight world champion, 42-4. He takes on Yardley Suarez, 22-8. Now, we spoke a little bit about this fight last week, so there's not too much to talk about. Yardley Suarez isn't really offering too much, I feel, for Billy Dibb. It should be really a showcase win for Billy Dibb. Obviously, just recently linking up with Robert Garcia and Mikey Garcia and all the guys there. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a decent fight. It's going to be good to see him active, and I like seeing Robert Garcia in his corner quite honestly. Also on the bill, Katie Taylor as well. She gets out. It's going to be interesting to see her on this bill. It's really a fantastic bill. I'm really looking forward to it. And seeing as it's going to be on Sky, I'm sure they're going to show her as well. She's in her sixth contest. She's 5-0 at the moment. It's an 8-round contest. 8 2-minute rounds, of course. Her opponent yet to be announced. And finally, the final fight to mention on this bill, a heavyweight clash that I am really looking forward to. Both men have been on this show before. One is probably more of a friend of the show than the other, because big baby Dirrell Miller, 18-0 with 1 draw. He's been on the show once before, but Gerald Washington, 18-1 with 1 draw, has been on quite a few times. It's a 10-rounder, this one. This is a really, really interesting matchup for me, because Dirrell Big Baby Miller has been making a lot of noise for a long time. He's been asking for a big fight. He's been wanting to take on the likes of Dillian White and etc, etc. Some people say he likes to price himself out of these fights, but he's been, he's been asking, he's been calling for a big fight for a very long time, and he gets it here. He gets it in, if I'm not mistaken, in his hometown. He gets it also against an American. So Gerald Washington, who for me, I mean, he's coming off the loss to Deontay Wilder in a fight where I thought he was winning every round until he got stopped. I was very upset for him there. And Dirrell Miller, this is like a big step up. This is a step up that he's been asking for. So he gets it here against a man who was previously undefeated and has only lost at world level. So I think it's a brilliant fight. In some ways, I feel bad for the loser, because the loser really and truly is probably going to get people saying, he's finished. But no, it's not like that. Dirrell, if he loses, if Big Baby loses, then maybe he's not at this level. I think that'll be clear. But if Gerald loses, then you just don't know what, you don't really know how good Big Baby is. It's one of those fights. It's really, really, really good. I'm really excited for it, and I just can't wait to see it, to be honest. Anything you want to add on that one, Diego? Really good fight as well.
Yeah, it really is it's a good fight, and I think it's a difficult one to sort of give your prediction on, because Gerald Washington, despite him getting knocked out in his last fight, I mean, he showed he's a talented boxer, and I think that any fighter who gets caught with a hard shot by Wilder will go down. So I haven't seen personally that much of Jarrell Miller. I've seen some fights. He looks okay. He doesn't look, like something like that's really eye-catching. Gerald Washington, what I really saw was he's a talented boxer. He's strong, and I think he seems to be in good physical shape. And I think that aspect and the fact that he's a good boxer may be the difference in this fight, and also the experience. Jarrell Miller, he's coming up. He's been asking for a big fight. Gerald Washington's been there. Whatever happened, he's already been there. He's experienced the environment. He knows what it's like. He knows the whole week into the lead up. He knows how to conduct his camp for a massive fight. So I think that personally, I'd say Gerald Washington is going to get the win. But even if he does get the loss, I mean, I think that he's still a talented fighter, and he's got a lot of things to still give in this boxing game. So yeah, that's what I'd say.
Yeah, I think Gerald's definitely taken this fight very seriously as well. I remember we've had him on the show a few times. We actually had him on fight week of the world title fight against Wilder. This time I tried to speak to him, and he basically said, look, I'm really concentrating on this fight. I don't really want to do any interviews until after the fight. So that kind of told me something. He's really, really dedicated, really motivated for this fight as well. One thing I will add is Dirrell Miller, sometimes he's come into fights really, really heavy. If he does this here, it'll be, he'd be shooting himself in the foot. He can't afford to do that with somebody as talented as Gerald Washington. But again, really, really excited to that fight. And again, it's another thing. It's like, I'm really excited for the weigh-in. I want to see how much Broner weighs. I want to see how much Big Baby weighs as well. So much excitement and anticipation for the Saturday night card at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. And the final bill to mention now, this one's actually happening on the Sunday at the Rabobank Theatre in California, USA. One fight to mention on this bill before we wrap up what we've got to say, wrap up the preview part of the show. Victor Ortiz returns to the ring after, well, let's be honest, after quitting a little bit against Andre Berto last, I think it was April of 2016. His record 31-6 with 2 draws. He takes on Saul Corral, who's got a record of 25-9. Corral's not really, he doesn't offer much. He's not really a great fighter. He's lost against some fringe kind of guys, and Victor Ortiz, in truth, should win, but you just never know what you're going to get with Victor Ortiz. He could fight really well, he could knock someone out, or he could quit. Like, it really could go either way. So All the very best to Victor Ortiz anyway in this fight, I suppose. It's a 10-rounder at welterweight, that one. And yeah, that's really it from California. That's really it for the previewing. We've done the reviewing. We haven't done the news, unfortunately. We did the Funny Name Fighter segment. I hope you guys enjoyed that. And of course, we've just finished there with the previewing. The last thing to do before we wrap up this episode is, of course, to welcome guest number 2. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome a man that needs no introduction on this show. He's been on more times than any other trainer. It's, of course, Mr. Dave Coldwell. Dave, welcome to the show.
How you doing, mate? Right?
Yes, all good, my friend. You?
Yeah, very good, mate. Very good.
Excellent, excellent. So, Dave, we last spoke on this show about 10 days before Haye versus Bellew, and I can't believe it's been that long. So it's only right to start, really, by saying congratulations on that win. What a fantastic night it was for you and Tony.
It was a great night. Very, very satisfying. You know, there was a lot of stuff that went on beforehand, and it just made that night even sweeter. Yeah, of course. One thing that shocked me, now I consider David Haye a very accurate puncher. I don't really consider Tony Bellew a really elusive boxer, but Haye was missing by miles at times, and it was a little bit embarrassing, actually, the way he was missing. Yeah. Tony was making him miss a lot in that fight as well. Yeah, it was, yeah. I mean, listen, there's two things that lead to that. One, you know, both things we prepared for. One, you know, the game plan and the tactics that Tony employed, the defensive moves and the boxing ability that he showed in that fight. And then two, we knew that David Haye wasn't the David Haye that, you know, in the old days as a cruiserweight, you know, the fast, sharp, accurate fighter that he was, you know, and we said that in the build-up, and you know, we got mocked for it. You know, I remember when people were saying, "Oh, how do you expect to win this fight? You know, there's no chance that Tony's going to win." And you know, in a few interviews, all I said was, "Listen, what's going to happen when, you know, early doors, David Haye's missing, and he's getting touched back, and he's missing, and then it becomes a fight." You know, and I also said, you know, will his body be able to fight? We don't know that. He doesn't know that, and you know, it's not like, you know, we said it was going to be the old David Haye that was knocking everybody out and being fantastic. David Haye's been inactive, and he's been, you know, he's a completely different fighter to what he was. And, you know, we was aware of that, and we said that in the build-up. There was no shock to it, and there was no shock to how the fight panned out. I said beforehand, you know, the early rounds was just about, you know, taking more steam out of him and making him miss and getting frustrated, and that's what was happening. Yeah, you certainly did say it. I remember you even saying it on this show. Now, since then, Dave, despite the result, a lot of people believe that if David Haye is fully fit and doesn't get injured, he would win the rematch. What's your thoughts on that? Yeah, but that's like, you know, you can say that about anything, about any fight. If he did this, if he did that, if he didn't do that, he'd have won. If he didn't do that, he'd have won. It is what it is, you know. People think that if Joe Cortez hadn't have jumped on Ricky Hatton's back all the way through the fight, then he'd have beaten Floyd Mayweather. Would he? Who knows? You know, it is what it is. The fight's the fight. Fights get won on a cut high. Does that mean that fighter that won the fight, that cut the other guy with a punch and whatever, does that mean that he doesn't deserve to have the accolades of a win? You know, fighters get won on an injury. A fighter, you know, pulls out of an injury. People just, you know, that's part of boxing. Once you get in that fight, a fight is a fight. What you know, it comes down to ability, comes down to strength, comes down to physical capabilities. If your body can't handle what you're supposed to be doing, that's part of the fight. That's the fight. You know, like I said, fighters lose, and then you know, I broke my hand in the second round, like I couldn't get going. Oh, he got a broken jaw. Yeah, and they get a pass for that. You know, well, yeah, it's part of the, you know, it's part of the game. It is what it is. You know, and I'm not really bothered about what people want to go on about, whether, you know, they've all been negative. Bottom line is, Tony wasn't supposed to get out the first round or the second round. And that's what everybody was saying before the fight. As soon as David Haye hits him on chin, he is done. He's been taken out. He's not getting out of the first two rounds. Let's make this clear. When David Haye had two legs, and he was fine, and he was loading up, and he was firing them bombs in, he touched Tony on the chin. He landed a few times on that chin of Bellew's. You know, the chin that's supposed to be letting him down because he got stopped against Adonis Stevenson. So how can he take David Haye's power? that same chin, and he took those shots. So it's not like he never got. I understand if he never got touched all the way through the fight, and then boom, leg went, and that's it. We got lucky, but it didn't. And that's what I'm saying. Is some people they're a little bit blinkered in the fight, and that's how it is. It is what it is. Bottom line is, Bellew got touched on the whiskers, and he took the shots, and it came straight through the shots. It was never wobbled. He was never in trouble. And we won the fight, and that's what it is.
And for a while, Tony was linked with the Wilder fight and also the Parker fight, both for their respective world titles. However, Dave, and I'm going to be honest here, I really do like Tony Bellew. I really do. I love him to bits, but he's not a natural heavyweight, and I'm not going to say. No. I'm not going to say he couldn't beat Parker. I'm not going to say he couldn't beat Wilder, but these guys are 6'7". They punch harder than Haye. Well, in Wilder's case, they do.
You're wrong there. One man's about 6'7", 6'8".
Wilder's 6. Wilder. Yeah, he's 6'7".
And Wilder's the one that we said no. As soon as they came face to face, no, it's too big. Joseph Parker is an inch taller than Tony Bellew, and they've met face to face. And I'm telling you, he is not a massive heavyweight. Face to face, they've met, and we've seen the size when they've squared off together, when they've stood with each other. And he ain't no giant. You're talking about a guy that's an inch taller than Tony Bellew. Yes, he's got. Yes, he's a heavyweight, but also he's very green, and he's not. He's not the best heavyweight out there. Now, when you're talking about a Wilder, an AJ, a Tyson Fury, they're giants. They're big men, and I completely agree with you. Tony Bellew is not an heavyweight. Not to compete with the super heavyweight division, but Parker's not a big heavyweight. He's not a giant, and so therefore it's not as big a physical disadvantage as what you'd expect. Listen, he was supposed to get blasted out by David Haye, and he didn't. And yes, David Haye did hit him on the chin. And does Parker hit harder than David Haye? I don't think so. No,
I don't think so on his point. I'll focus on the Wilder bit. Obviously, as you said there, Wilder being 6'7", a big puncher, probably a bigger puncher than Haye. Yeah, that fight, in a way, I was glad that fight didn't happen because I felt that, I know that Bellew's upset the odds many times, but he would have been an underdog there. And for me, I feel that if he would have lost the fight before taking on Haye in a rematch, I don't think that fight sells as well. I don't think that fight gets as much money as both men deserve.
Yeah. No, as far as the Wilder fight is concerned, that was a fight that I never wanted. And I'd said to Tony, because I've worked with Deontay Wilder for 3 weeks. When we had him over sparring for David Haye. So I've worked with him. I know how big he is, how tall he is, how rangy he is. It's not. Listen, he isn't the best heavyweight out there. He's not. Technically, he's not great. He's like his name. He's very, very wild. But if he catches you on the end of those levers, it's good night. The guy can punch. And like I say, giving up that natural size, the height, the reach, the longevity, that is too much of it. For me, that'd have been a very, very dangerous fight. I'm not saying we couldn't have pulled it off, but the chance of that, for me, being honest, Tony would have been a massive underdog in that fight. In his mind, listen, you talk about fighters that willing to get away. In his mind, he believes he could beat Wilder. But then they met up and he realised just how big the man was and how difficult a night that was. Giving up, going in with somebody that punches as hard as him, as a natural heavyweight. And he was like, no, he understood that and he got that. And that's why, we haven't pursued the fight with Wilder. We're not stupid. It's just like, he's got no intentions of shouting at Anthony Joshua. He's not an idiot. And, once he saw the physicalities of Wilder, up close and personal, then, you've not heard him mention Wilder since. So that fight, that's put to bed. That's got nothing to do with it.
Yeah, no, and like I say, you can't blame Bellew for believing he can do all these things because he's really upset the apple cart many times. Now we've all seen Hayes making really good progress. He seems like his legs. He's been working on it.
Fantastic.
Is there a deadline that the rematch has got to be signed before Tony moves on, Dave?
Well, yeah. If we make another fight, we're getting to the point now where we're like, well, next couple of weeks we need to really sort something out, and decide which way we're going to go. And he's got, there's the options that are there. So, it's let's see which way it goes.
Moving on to a couple of your other fighters now, Dave. Gavin McDonnell got a win the other week. Good to see him back to winning ways after losing his world title shot. How's he doing?
Yeah, good. It was obviously the disappointment initially that he felt in losing his world title shot, but realistically, you got to look at Gavin McDonnell and say he did really, really well to get a world title shot, a WBC world title shot, and to put up such a good fight, especially down the stretch of the fight. It come on really, really well. It's just Vargas was too good for him. Just too good, too experienced, just a better fighter. And as far as Gav's concerned, it's a case of rebuilding. He's come back with a win on a small show, getting the rust off and getting that loss put behind him. Put up a good performance as well, and it's about moving forward now and then, looking at another big fight, October time, and then you come through that, then you can start planning for another crack. There's no point in trying to get him into another world title shot as soon as possible. He lost against Vargas because he wasn't good enough, and also still the things that we're trying to work on in the gym, the mistakes that he keeps making, cost him in that fight, and he realizes, wow, yeah, I get it, and now I need to work harder on those faults that I've got in order to compete at world level again. So there's no point in rushing him straight back into world level. He needs a couple of fights to improve. Not against Jim. He needs another a real fight. Whether it's at European or domestic or top domestic European or fringe world title level, world class level. He needs another real fight, and if he comes through that, then you've earned another shot at planning for another world title shot. But I would say everything goes to plan, then maybe the end, toward the end of 2018, that's when he'll be ready. Both with more experience and more education in the gym. Then maybe he's ready for another assault on a world title.
Yeah, we absolutely wish him all the very best. And when we last spoke, you were quite honest about David Price and where his future lays. I haven't heard anything since then. How's he doing? What do we know what's next for him?
Well, I'd said after that fight, I spoke to him and I'd said, as far as I was concerned, I don't think that he should box again. Since then, I've not had anything to do with boxing wise, and so that's not really any of my business really. What he chooses to do, he knows my opinion. I'm friends with him. We've been in touch, but I've not spoken to him about boxing at all. It's just been a case of how we met as family, everything good, and that's it. I've got no interest in talking to David Price about boxing at all, to be honest. What he chooses to do, if he chooses to carry on or not, that's down to him. That's his career, and I've got no right to tell somebody to pack up. All I can offer is my opinion, which I have done.
Yeah, fair enough. And also, a fight that we all knew was a pretty close fight is happening again. Jamie McDonnell giving Solis a rematch. Now, I said it on the podcast the other week that when it got announced, it just goes to show the character of Jamie Mack. He could have moved up, he could have looked elsewhere, but he clearly wants to settle the score, and he deserves a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, let's be honest. It was the thing about Jamie McDonnell is he's not a banger. Every fight's gonna be an hard fight, a 12, or a late. The stoppages he gets usually are late, but 9 times out of 10 at top level, it's going to be points jobs. These are hard fights. Now, the guys at the lower end of the division, something like Jamie McDonnell, does never get the respect. He never gets the exposure that his accomplishments in this game deserve. You look at his achievements and who he's beaten in his career. He's got a fantastic resume. Now, he doesn't get the respect and he doesn't get the exposure. So the one thing that he needs to get is he needs to get the money. So the problem is it was a very, very close fight against Solis. People like to batter us and slag us off and say that we robbed Solis. I thought going into the fight on the night, I thought it was down to the last round. I thought we won the last round. but it's a close fight. That means it can go either way for me. Now, when the scorecards were being read in the ring, because I only thought we nicked it, when they read out the scorecards, I thought we'd lost it. And then when they gave it to us, I thought, my initial reaction was, wow, that's bad. I knew we was going to get loads and loads of crap because of the judges' scorecards. Now, that's nothing to do with us, you know. Jamie went in there and he boxed, and he kind of like, he stayed on the ropes too long. It didn't do what he was supposed to do in the fight. Now, he understands that and he knows that. And the thing about him is he's absolutely gutted by the response he's had. You know, because this is a kid that, like I said, he doesn't get the respect that he deserves. And then on the back of that, the respect he had kind of was gone from a lot of people. And we understand that. So Jamie wanted initially to fight Solly straight away. Now, the problem is, a promoter's not willing to put a fight on that doesn't financially make sense to him. And, you know, Eddie was looking at it and he was like, listen, the numbers I don't know where I can put this fight on. The numbers don't stack up. You know, Jamie's not going to take a big pay cut to have a fight like that, a life and death fight like that, when there was another fight on the table, which we was offered, which was the Paul Butler fight on a Warren show, which was going to pay him like a lot more than a rematch against Solis. Like, you can't understand that when these kids are fighting, they're putting their lives on the line. They deserve to be getting paid to the max that they can do. Now, Jamie's only got a few fights left. You know, you're talking about you know, maybe 18 months, 2 years left in games. Just say, you know, I'd like him to be out in a couple of years. So he's only and let's look at it realistically, because he's not a big marketable name. Look at how many fights he gets a year. So you're not talking about a lot of fights left. So he needs to gather as much money as he can in order to secure his family's future. So the Butler fight was paying a lot more than what Solly's rematch was. So we accepted the terms to go and box on a Frank Warren show against Paul Butler and defend his title on his show. No problem. So Solly's was happy for us to take that fight. So it's not like we'd shafted Solly's. Solly's was happy for us to take that fight. We agreed out of our money out of Jamie's money, he was going to pay Solly's a step aside fee, and Solly's was happy with that. And then after Butler, the winner has to fight Solly's. So Solly's gets his shot, not a problem. And Solly's was happy to sit there and wait. So it's not a problem as far as Solly's is concerned. We haven't shafted him. He's getting paid for sitting at home and watching it, and he's guaranteed the winner. So he's going to get his rematch. So we waited on that fight. Initially, Jamie's broken his hand against Solly's, so he wasn't ready to start training again until April. So he's training from April. We're expecting the date in June. It ended up where we got a date in July eventually, and then the day after we got the date in July, the fight gets cancelled. The show gets cancelled. So we've scratched that. We're not even going to bother trying to chase Butler on their show again. So we've turned around straight away and said to Eddie, I've said, listen, forget about trying to renegotiate a date for Butler. Just go and get Solly's. Jamie was fed up because he waited all this time and dates getting pushed back. And he was like, no, he said, let's just go and do Solly's. We can always do Butler another time. So that's when we informed WBA, yes, we're willing to do mandatory now. There's not going to be an interim fight. Off it goes. There you go. They put it out to purse bids. That's what happened with the fight. Eddie's got the date. You know, it'll be announced very, very shortly, and so we're gonna have the rematch with Solly's. So, long story short, it's you know, the fight's happening, and people will now be happy to see that, you know, there's people that are British that are there that Jamie McDonnell's never done anything wrong, and people that are out there tweeting and saying, "Hope he gets smashed because he got a decision last time." That's just wrong, man. It's just nothing. That's nothing to do with this kid. This kid's not had the breaks, not had the exposure, not had none of that, none of big backing, and you know, he won a close fight, and people want him to get smashed. You know, it is what it is. So that's why Jamie's just all about the money. He wants the biggest paydays out there, and you know, he doesn't feel as though he's ever going to get respect And it's a shame. It is a shame because his talents deserve it. I mean, I'd like him to fight Solis, beat Solis, and then step up to super bantamweight. Because I think you're going to see the best of him at super bantamweight. That extra 4 pounds, I think you'll see the best of him.
Yeah, because obviously, the recent signing just this week, Paul Butler's now joint Matchroom. It's a great time to be a bantamweight. Obviously, you've got, the Lee Haskins fight was there for a while. Now he's been beaten by Ryan Burnett. Yeah. Ryan Burnett's also with Matchroom. There's so much right now at world level, really, for bantamweight. But do you see his future not a bantamweight then? You reckon he'll move up to super? It'll be a shame, really.
Yeah, but what you got to remember, he's getting older and he's massive. He's bigger than all them guys you're mentioning. These are little guys. Ryan Burnett's probably about my height. He's no taller than me. You talk about small guys. Paul Butler, again, he's a small guy, small, thin guy. Jamie McDonnell's got wide shoulders, he's a big kid. For him to get down to bantamweight, it's very, very hard work. Now he's doing it, and he's managing it, and he's performing well, but he's going to perform better with an extra 4 pound on him. And he's coming into that age now where the little guys, they age quicker than the bigger guys, and that extra 4 pound on him is a case of where you're gonna see the best of him, and it's gonna prolong his career. So for me, I would rather him move up as soon as. I've been saying this for the last couple of years. I want him to move up as soon as possible, and the paydays at bantamweight have to be more than worthwhile for him to stay at bantamweight, and that's how it is.
Yeah. And finally, I think I have mentioned all of your fighters now but one, Mr. Anthony Fowler. He was on the show a few weeks ago. He said that when you both met, you seemed to click pretty much straight away. How's that assignment working out for you, Dave?
Yeah, very good, I had no intention of taking any more fighters on. I had no intention when Fowler sent me a message, I think it was in LA, and he sent me a message saying, he'd like to do a training session with me. The only reason why I said, yes, all right, we'll have a chat, was because, again, same as the other guys that I work with, because the mates, Fowler I've known for a few years now. He used to come to my shows that I was putting on. In fact, we sponsored him for the Commonwealth Games. So I've known him for a while, but I had no intention of training him. And then when we spoke and we had the chat, and I realised that he isn't what he comes across sometimes on Twitter. I thought he was going to be big-headed, a bit odd to deal with, because I thought he'll think he knows it all. He's had 209, 210 amateur fights, Commonwealth gold, World Championship bronze. I thought he's going to be thinking that, I've done this. Why do I need to change? But you know what? His first chat, when I told him exactly what I thought about him, faults-wise, he completely agreed, and I just thought this kid's got the right attitude, and he's proven me 100% correct. And I'm so glad that I agreed to work with him, because he might not be the most naturally gifted fighter, out of the Olympic crop. He might not be the most skillful out there, and slick. He's come through on his toughness and his grit and his determination and his will to win and his dedication. But he's also got a brain that's willing and accepting to learn new things. And he understands that he can't just walk through 3 and 4 punches each time just to land one. And so he's refining himself, and we're working a lot in the gym in order to improve his game, his all-round game. And trying to get him to stop loading up on single shots. And, he's coming along. He's coming on really nicely. It's early days yet, but he's doing everything that I'm asking him to do. It's a pleasure to train with. We have some great banter. He's a good lad. He reminds me very much in the gym, with his discipline and his dedication in the gym, of Tony Bellew. And that I can't praise enough, because there's not many fighters that have got that same will and drive and determination in the gym, when they're tired, when things aren't right, and they just want to get the job done no matter what. And he's got that attitude, and he's a pleasure to work with, and I'm enjoying seeing him progress. It's early days, like I said, but he's a kid that's willing to learn, and anybody that's willing to learn that also has that background that he's got, as far as an amateur career is concerned, they're going to be a dangerous proposition in the pros, definitely.
Yeah, he's certainly one to watch for the future, Dave. Now, 2 fights to mention just before I let you go. 2 fights I want to get your take on. I'm going to start with the huge middleweight clash in September. Triple G Canelo. How'd you see that one, Dave? Big fight.
Man, this is the fight for me.
Yeah.
This is the fight. I can't wait for this. If I haven't got any fighters out on that day, and if I can get away, I am off to that fight. That's the one that I'm wanting to go to. I've chopped and changed my mind so many times since this fight's been made. I do think that on the last 2 fights, I actually looked at it was the Kell Brook fight. I was sat because I was doing commentary for some of the other fights on the bill, and I was sat next to the Sky commentary team, and so I was that close to the ring to the fighters. And I remember thinking in the Kell Brook fight, he looks like he's aging. I thought Golovkin just looked like he was aging. And then I went to the Danny Jacobs fight. And again, in that fight, he just looks like a fighter that isn't pulling the trigger as fast as what he did. And I'm thinking Canelo has got a great boxing brain, punch variety, he's big, he's strong. I'm thinking, yeah, he's got a very good jab. I think Canelo's going to beat him. And then I see him stood face to face, and then I didn't realise just how big Golovkin was. So Golovkin being bigger again on Canelo, I'm thinking, wow, I didn't expect that. So I had a little wobble. I thought, oh, maybe, and if Golovkin catches him, but I'm going to stick to my guns. I do think Golovkin is aging. I do think people forget he's 35. He's come a long way, and you forget he's actually 35 years old, and he had a lot of amateur fights. So maybe age is catching up on him, and I just think timing is right. I think Canelo's like I said, he's got a great boxing brain. I think Canelo's going to probably beat him on points, probably, but I'm not confident at all. But I can't wait. Either way, I'm a fan of them both. I just want it to be a great fight. I don't care who wins. I just want it to be a great fight. I want to see a great fight because it's a great matchup. And this is like a matchup that you can put up there with the old matchups, and it's a great event for boxing.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's sure with any predictions. It is a real 50-50 and one that I can't wait for either. And the final fight, Dave, it's gone a little bit under the radar, but again, it's one that I've been looking forward to for a long time. It's happening this weekend over in New York. Mikey Garcia, Adrian Broner, brilliant fight as well.
It is. Do you know what? That's another one. I just, because the thing is, with Broner, because of his attitude and because of how he is, you forget that he's actually very, very talented and he's got great ability, because you don't want to give him the props almost, and his ability is actually covered up by his bad attitude, by missing weight, by flashing his money about and talking crap, and it kind of overshadows the fact that he can box. He's a very, very good fighter. Mikey Garcia, though, he's class. He is class, and he can punch, and he's exciting. Could he get frustrated in this fight? I don't know. Maybe, possibly. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. It's a fight that I genuinely don't know who's going to win. A part of me thinks that Broner's going to turn it on, and he's going to pick his shots really, really well, and do a job. But there's another part of me that just thinks Garcia could just bully him, and the power could tell. So I don't know. I don't know. I couldn't answer that as in who do I think is going to win. I'm going to sit on the fence on that one. I think it is going to be a great fight. If Broner is at the top of... Alright, here's this. If Broner is at the top of his game, at the absolute top of his game, and he's done everything right in preparation, he's fully focused, and he goes out there and does what Adrian Broner can do, I think he might pull it off. But if he's not at the best, and if he's not going to put out a career best performance, then I think Garcia. So, I don't know.
No, still another absolutely brilliant fight. Again, it's just we're spoiled at the moment being boxing fans. Some brilliant fights been made. Right, listen, Dave, it's always a pleasure. Thank you for giving us some of your time. Give everyone my best in the gym, and we'll speak again very soon, mate.
Thanks a lot, mate. Cheers, mate.
Okay, this concludes episode 93. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Diego Najera has been with me for the duration of the show also. A big thank you to our two guests, Callum Smith and Dave Coldwell. If you get a chance, remember, please leave us a review on iTunes. We'd really, really appreciate that. Enjoy your weekends. Please watch the Garcia versus Broner fight. It's simply a must. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.